What up, what up? It's Big Tommy Nichols. Or small Tommy Nichols, depending on who you're comparing me to, I guess. Because big or small, it's completely subjective by comparison, Whatever. That's just a little rant, but let's talk about this right here, man. Rich dad, poor dad. I don't even know if I have words, dude. That's what it is, man. It's the kind of thing that, oh man, I'm trying to get comfortable here, my bad. I'm trying to stretch too. It's mind blowing, It fucks with your mind. And, basically the general consensus, hence the title, is Robert Kiyosaki, the writer, has a dad who's a teacher, who he calls his poor dad, which is his biological father, his real dad. And then one of his friend's dads and a mentor of his, he calls his poor dad. Rich dad, poor dad. Now, it had a huge impact on my life, but part of it could be because my dad was a teacher. And, in the book, when he's describing his poor dad, it's like, damn. It's like, because everything he describes is exactly my father. And it's not that it's good or bad, it's about knowledge, though. I think, then, I have a mentor who is a little bit too young to be considered my dad, but the traits are similar to his rich dad. And, the point of it all, I would say, is that they thought in completely different ways. His rich dad and poor dad thought about money differently, point blank, period. It's all about mind. This is another book I'm about to read right here, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. I started it. I'm about to finish it pretty soon. I'll probably read that book tomorrow. But the point is that, your thoughts are going to have a huge impact on your income. Oh, hold that one. And so, really mind-blowing, because I guess the most important thing to think about is just from a general holistic point of view of the book, is that the rich think about money differently, point blank, period. It's not the same kind of wiring as the poor and middle class. The main thing I would say that I got out of it was that he's trying to destroy, completely annihilate the preconceived notion, and I shouldn't say preconceived, but the notion that you have to go to school, basically wait while you're going to school, to wait to get a job, to wait to work your way up in the job, to wait to try to get a management or top position, to wait to retire, to wait to die. Who wants to live like that? For real. Come on. Let's talk serious for a second, and that's the way his poor dad thought, and he's like, bullshit. All right, let's go out and let's make some money here. I know I know that you in society aren't telling me everything I need to know. So, seeks out mentorship. I always like to, read the first and the last chapters, at least. But that's just my first skim usually, but the name of the first chapter is like just huge for me. The rich don't work for money. And then, he goes on to say the poor and middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. Boom. Right there. You know, I guess to some of you, I'm switching up how I sit because, sitting down the way that traditional humans sit down is actually not a natural part of the human anatomy and physiology and whatever all that stuff is, because, like, that's proven. You could look that up. Think about it. When we come from hunter gatherers, and when you shit, you know, it's actually not that healthy to be shitting from a sitting position. You need to be in a squatting position because that's what our ancestors did. Thousands of years of evolution. And then last 100 years we started shitting on toilets and sitting down. But that's irrelevant. Same deal. The point is when you sit down in the traditional way, your legs aren't doing any work, your lower back caves. If you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. But anyway, very first chapter, he says, "Dad, can you tell me how to get rich?" And put down the evening paper and says, "Why do you want to get rich?" And he said, "Because my friend Jimmy's dad is rich and they're doing a lot of fun stuff that we're not doing." And then he said, his dad didn't give him an answer. His biological father went back to reading the paper and didn't answer the question because he didn't have an answer for the question. So then his journey starts as he goes on a quest to find his rich dad, which is his friend's dad. And then I guess the first thing you need to know, the most important thing I would say, that he learned from his rich dad initially, he says, never say I can't afford it. No matter what you're talking about, because when you say I can't afford it, you are giving up. Not only are you giving up, but you're allowing your brain to cop out. It's a cop out excuse. Rather, an alternative, he says, how can I afford it? And then your mind starts running with all these ideas and trying to figure out how you can afford it. And that's something that I've been practicing. It's been working phenomenally. Just in life, in general, even things that I wouldn't be able to buy right now because I don't have the money for it. You think about it in a different way and say, hey, how can I afford this? And your brain starts running, doing all this work, thinking, how can I, and it's, man, I'm just so excited, man, because I don't know if you watched my first video, but this is the beginning of a success story right here. So I would say that, a lot of my mentors say that, they look back on their life, especially when it comes to wealth, and they can remember one day where ultimately that was maybe a turnaround in their life, or a marker, or like a landmark, if you will, of success. And I would say when I finished this book, that's one of the days I'm going to look back on and be like, yep, that's when my life changed right there. So, you know, that's the general consensus. You know, I don't want to give too much of it away because I suggest you read this book yourself. You know, anybody trying to, you know, get the wealth pillar of success going in their life and live the good life needs to read this book. You know, and so the last chapter, you know, he says, you know, if you know, I say all the time, you know, a self-help book is no help unless it gives you a solution to the problem that it identifies. So the very last, you know, he talks about what we need to do if we want to start our journey to becoming wealthy. So chapter 9, here are some to-dos. Number 1, stop doing what you're doing. That's pretty fucking obvious if you ask me. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. All right. I think we live in a society where they will try to convince you that hoping is enough. You know, hoping, wishing, praying. These are all ideas I've adopted from multiple different mentors. Another book I'm going to talk about, Sell or Be Sold, he talks about how, you know, those who don't want to trust their fate anymore to hoping, praying, and pleading need to learn how to persuade and negotiate successfully. And that's a topic for another day. But the point is that in that sense, you know, you need to change what you're doing, and negotiating and persuading could ultimately be the greatest skills you will ever acquire in life. Right. So, number 2, look for new ideas. You know, investing ideas. You know, not only do you gotta change what you're doing, but you also gotta keep looking. You know, you gotta keep finding new stuff. You know, an idea that I had got from Ty Lopez is that one big distinctive trait of rich people is they adopted new innovations quickly. You know, they were the first people to invest in innovations, or they invented the innovations, you know, because they were constantly looking for new ideas, new and better ideas. And then the last one is find someone who has done what you want to do. You know, it's another thing that Ty Lopez says, you know, is you gotta have a mentor. And books are a big one, because in another idea that I got from him is that, you know, it's thought-provoking a little bit, is that I think his exact quote was, most people don't realize that they could have Aristotle as a mentor. You know, most people don't realize they could have Sigmund Freud as a mentor, or Zig Ziglar as a mentor. But you can through books. Now, that's my own little rant. It doesn't have to be through books, you know. But the point is that, I mean, it is a big one, but, you know, the point is that you need a mentor, you know. Einstein had a mentor. Not even that, man. You look at any successful person, you ask them if they had a mentor, they will say yes. You know, whether it was through books, whether it was in person, whether it was from a seminar, YouTube videos, a podcast. They had a mentor. If they're successful, they had some type of mentor. Point blank, period. You know, the next one is take classes, read, and attend seminars. There you go. You know, that's the power of mentors through, like, you know, like second streaming, if you will. Um, I think the last one is make lots of offers. He goes on to say, when I want a piece of real estate, I look at many properties and generally write an offer. If you don't know what the right offer is, neither do I. That is the job of the real estate agent. They make the offers. I do as little work as possible. You know. It's really as simple as changing your thinking, you know. I guess that could sound kind of counterintuitive. Hoping is not enough. Practicing and training and negotiating and persuading is what you need to do. But these things will come fairly easy if you train your brain to think differently. Alright, now, I'm not even trying to claim that I am rich or anything like that right now, but I will be. I've known since I was a kid I was going to be rich. And you can talk to me in 8 months. That being said, you know, if there's someone in prison who says that 2 plus 2 is 4, you know, let's say he's in prison for murder, that doesn't change the validity of what he's saying just because he did a bad thing or he's in prison. So my point is, just because I'm not rich yet doesn't mean that, you know, the validity of what Robert Kiyosaki is saying and the fact that I'm kind of reviewing his info, you know, it's not any less valid just because I'm saying it and I'm not technically wealthy yet. But I'll tell you one thing, Robert Kiyosaki is very wealthy and he knows what he's talking about, you know. So maybe it's time to humble ourselves and listen what he has to say. Change your thinking, change your life, you know. Think about money differently and change your life. Seek out a mentor, a rich dad if you will, and put more money in your pocket. You know, I may not be rich, but it already happened to me. You know, I put more money in my pocket by seeking out mentors and, you know, for example, last little thing I want to talk about, the traditional school system. I've recently decided not to go back to school in the fall, you know, and my parents are not happy about it, right? But that being said, they're not paying for my college or anything, but my dad's a poor dad, and he would like to see me go down the traditional path because that's what he was taught, and that's what he thinks is the, you know, perhaps the only way to happiness or freedom or financial freedom or maybe whatever it is that you're seeking out in life. So they're not happy, but I'll tell you one thing. I've been an entrepreneur for about 2 months now. Technically, I've owned a business for about 2 months. I've learned a lot more from books and from conferences and seminars and YouTube videos and mentors than I ever did in these last 2 months than I did in 16 years of traditional school. Okay? You know, it destroys your curiosity. You know, I was reading recently about the 25 cognitive biases. You know, it's something you might hear a lot if you have some of the same mentors as me, but you know, let me see if I can find it here. You know, there's like a Number 6 is the curiosity tendency. Okay, we we're innately prone to being curious and wanting to find out new things. But I argue the traditional school system destroys that for a lot of reasons. To name a few, it would be one, you don't have any control of what they're putting in front of you. Okay. Uh, Two, it's not necessarily a realistic setting that you should be learning in. And I'll bring the evidence for that. That should be obvious, though. So, even when I was on this website looking up curiosity tendency, the curiosity bias, they talk about how we were very curious creatures as children, uh, before the traditional school system destroyed our curiosity with its evil ways. All right, so um, it's important to learn what you want to learn, you know, study what you want to study, you know. I guess I dropped out of college, but Richard Branson didn't even drop out of college, because he dropped out of high school. Um, I heard someone say that he's an outlier, but it's actually not that true. It's not that true when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad. There is countless millionaires who did not go down the traditional school sense. I don't know the statistics, maybe more than people who did get a degree. But regardless, we live in the entrepreneurial age. There's no excuse to not be successful anymore. One of my mentors said, I don't know, I can't even sleep with all the potential that's out there. So that being said, I feel like school is a waste of time for me. But I think the point I was trying to make is that it may be the biggest thing that is I got out of this book is that we need to be financially educated, okay? Now, you may learn some of that stuff in school, you might, but I'm going to tell you what, you're going to learn a whole lot of other stuff that you don't care about learning. And it's not all about a piece of paper, all right? It's about stacks of paper. Tommy out.